Well, hey guys, it's Rick Slade, Compuware's Executive DevOps Solution Architect, and welcome to our Friday live Q&A. I am doing this from the porch today in the mountains. It's an absolutely gorgeous day in Northwest North Carolina. So, hope your day is going well. Also, again, thank you for joining us. If you've got questions today, you can use the chat icon at the bottom of the screen. Just press that chat icon, and within that chat box, you'll be able to ask questions to myself and to our guest today, Bill Mackey. Bill was on our podcast when we recorded it last, and was willing and able to join us today, and just made my day because he can give such much better answers with regard to ZAdvisor and the things that we're doing from a measurement standpoint. So, Bill, welcome. Glad you're joining us. Appreciate you being here, man.
Thanks, Rick. Glad to be here.
That's cool. Again, folks, if you've got questions, you can use the chat box to ask those questions. Not going to get into a lot this morning. I'm going to get right into the questions because I can see we've already got several that are already queued up, and I'm sure Bill and I'll get into a good discussion around measurement. So, but again, if you've got questions, please respond in the chat box. So our first question today from Thomas is, how are the metrics provided by ZAdvisor sourced? Where do the raw numbers come from? Bill, you want to take that?
Sure. So all the Compuware products that companies have are architected to write out SMF records in execution time. So the products have been doing this for more than 10 years through our VIP program. So all the product usage data comes to us from these SMF records, and customers have several ways of sending us this data, and they've got lots of choices. So then ZAdvisor, as the data is being sent to us, ZAdvisor infuses additional like Salesforce.com information in these records so that we can do things like report on verticals and report on geographies, things like that. And then for the non-Compuware data that we get, tools like Jira, Endeavor, ChangeMan, ServiceNow, they all have export type jobs. Most of these products have export jobs that allow customers to send us CSV files that we can load directly into ZAdvisor, into the AWS cloud. That's where it all comes from.
I was, Bill, I should have talked a little bit about what ZAdvisor is. I know there may be some folks who are with us today who may not know what ZAdvisor is. Can you kind of give us a brief description of what that product is and what it does?
Sure. It's basically a DevOps mainframe measurement tool, is the simplest explanation. So, what it does is it takes data from your development tools like File8, Expedite, or Abendate, Topaz, and take that data plus data from your SCM, whether that be ISPW or ChangeMan or Endeavor, add to that data from your ITSM like Jira or ServiceNow or Rally. And it takes all that data and it puts it into AWS cloud, and then we've got the ability to log into that AWS cloud, into ZAdvisor, and present that data back to you in modern mainframe Kibana dashboards. And it's also going to allow us to do a lot of analytics work where we can start to see patterns of behavior and then report on those patterns back to our customers, and eventually start giving recommendations on analysis on what good looks like, and give you some benchmarks on different KPIs that can help your development organizations improve.
Yeah, I remember when I first joined Compuware, I went to Detroit. One of the first meetings I had was with Jim Soraka, and he was talking to me about the VIP program. And didn't understand it at that point, and so I said, well, just show me what kind of information you're able to provide. And I saw some of the first reports, and I'm thinking, my God, this is gold to a software delivery system product owner with regard to understanding how his or her system is actually performing. And there was so much data that could be assessed, analyzed, reviewed to help that person make determinations as to where they may have problems, with regard to software delivery. So just an incredible set of metrics. And then it's evolved over the time that I've been here. You guys have just taken it to places that are amazing with ZAdvisor. So Great technology, great information is how I like to describe it for that person or for that organization that is trying to optimize software delivery and maximize efficiency, effectiveness, velocity, and quality of what they produce. So good stuff.
Yep.
Let me, let's see, get to the next question is from Elliot. Elliot asked, what work from us clients is required to leverage ZAdvisor? Bill, you want to jump that one too?
Sure. Well, basically you have to choose first thing you do is you choose from 4 different methods of sending the usage data to Compuware. So streaming is what we call it. That's our quickest way, and that sends the data near real time. So as somebody goes into a product like Expediter does a debugging session, that product is creating these SMF records, and that data is kind of batched up into buffers and then sent to us. Like at Compuware, we see our data about every 10 minutes behind when it happens. So it's kind of, we call that near real time. And streaming requires a little bit of setup, and you've got to have the AWS certs, the certifications, and an outbound only firewall rule. So a little bit of work from the security team there. But other methods are FTPS, SFTP, via Jenkins plugin, and then just regular FTP, which was what we used to do with the old VIP program. But we're trying to get people to the more secure methods of sending us the data, like FTPS, SFTP, and streaming. The last 3 methods I mentioned there, the user gets to select the interval at which they send us the data. So whether they want to send it to us daily, weekly, monthly, that's up to them. And then, of course, the more current they are sending us the data, the quicker their turnaround. So, for example, if they're looking at a series of admins, it's nice to be able to see the admins close to when they happen rather than a month later, where you can't do as much for them. So
a little fresher in your mind.
Yeah. And one other thing, just to mention, because there are a couple parms that have to be basically turn on ZAdvisor type of parms. And that's it. It's really not a whole lot to it. It shouldn't take any time at all if you have the personnel to do it.
Good deal. Why is there reluctance with some organizations to do this? I mean, why would you not? I mean, it sounds like such an obvious thing to do to me. Why would you not to do something like that?
There's not a whole lot of reluctance. We've got about 160 mainframe customers now sending us data, but the problem is not all of them are sending it on a schedule. So it's much better if it's kind of if you automate this so that you send it every week or every day, or stream it so that you kind of set it and forget it. And then so if anything, it's just people get busy or they haven't thought through. But I think once you see the value in the metrics, it becomes more of a priority for people, and we're finding that to be true. So as we're giving people their own access so they can go onto these dashboards at their leisure, at their convenience, people are like, okay, we need to make sure we get you this data more timely, because I'm looking back a month and I want to look back a week. So
yeah, if you're an organization that's wanting to implement a continuous improvement program, it's a no-brainer in my mind. It's easy.
I mean, what we tend to find is the ops people are pretty good about, we just need to get you those SMF records. We can do that. But when you say to them or someone else, hey, we also need your Jira data or your ServiceNow data or your SCM data, that typically is a different group of people. So there's a communication lag there, or I don't know who to talk to. If I were to say to you, Rick, who would you go to get Jira data from Compuware? You typically go, I don't know, I got to ask somebody. And that's
exactly.
That's typically what happens.
Same thing with everybody else.
Yeah.
There's still a lot of silos out there, aren't there, with regard to software development and different platforms.
Very much
moving in the right direction.
Yep.
But I absolutely see that. Next question comes from Laura. That's an easy one. Can we get a demo of ZAdvisor? And absolutely, Laura.
That is an easy one. Always.
What's the best way to get that done, Bill?
Spencer and I love doing demos, and even our AC group is now, they're doing demos. It's so much fun to do this because, first of all, this is a service we provide at no cost to our customers. So it's a win-win. It's very low pressure, and you're seeing your own data. It's exciting to see it in the format that we're presenting it in. So yeah, just contact your account consultant, and he or she will set that up. No problem.
I remember to me, ZAdvisor is one of those technologies that provides that wow factor. You see it and it's like, whoa, it's jaw dropping when you see the depth and breadth of which you can report regarding activity in that software delivery lifecycle. But yeah, we love to show it off. It's one of those things that because it's a wow factor, it's one of those things that everybody enjoys demoing and showing to clients. It's powerful. Next question from Jackson. And Jackson asks, what do you believe the critical KPIs to be when monitoring your software delivery system?
All right, well, that's a little trickier. It's probably more dependent on where a customer is in their DevOps journey, whether they're right at the beginning or they're midway or they're fairly advanced and are already, the more they're already relying on metrics, the answer changes. So I'll give you kind of an example of what I saw here at Compuware. 5 years ago, we made the decision to go completely agile. In fact, the way we did it was we burned the boats. 1 week we were waterfall, and the next week we were agile, and there was no going back. And trust me, we had a tough year. It wasn't easy, but we got there. And so what we focused on was mean time to repair, which was how fast are we fixing bugs, because we had a lot of we had quality issues, to be honest, in our software. So we were spending an inordinate amount of time fixing bugs. We had a lot of our development staff fixing bugs, and not enough people on what we call new innovation. So we made the decision to go quarterly with our releases of software instead of the de facto mainframe vendor standard of yearly or more. Yeah. And to be honest, we were just had gotten complacent over 20, 30 years of mainframe software delivery, where we were in this waterfall system and you release software. You tried to release it yearly. Sometimes it went longer. So when we went and decided to start doing it quarterly, we had to be able to produce a lot of value, a lot of new innovation every single quarter. And to do that, we had to get out of this, working on bugs. So we focused on mean time to repair. We spent a lot of effort early on in creating automated tests, kind of finding the bugs before they got out to our customer base, which sounds like a simple thing, but it's not the way we were working back then. And we went from probably spending 80% of our time fixing bugs and 20% on new innovation to reversing that over the course of those 5 years. So, and that's kind of where our sweet spot is now. We like to have about 80% of our development organization creating new innovation every single quarter, and 20% working on non-innovation like bugs and maintenance. So,
and there are a lot of factors that allow us to attribute that. A lot of the things that we've talked about over this podcast series with regard to modernizing your testing infrastructure, modernizing your testing capabilities, automating a lot of the work that occurs in that software delivery cycle, or what contributes to those improved times. But you don't know that unless you're measuring it. And so I think that's why this is so important. Also, the measurements will take you to where there are issues or problems within. You'll see those very clearly if you're properly measuring the activity within that software delivery cycle. The ZAdvisor seems to make it very easy to identify where the issues are. When people ask me about KPIs, and I want to get your perspective on this, because I think you'll agree with me, because I see how ZAdvisor provides data. I'm big into identifying and providing metrics that provide business value. There's, it's back in my coding days in the 70s and 80s and 90s and early 2000s. There's a lot of effort from a productivity standpoint spent on lines of code and metrics that were very much oriented to the productivity of the developer. It really didn't mean anything, because lines of code to me is ridiculous. I mean, so many things can impact that. But understanding mean time to repair, cycle times with regard to getting ideas to a production state, things that have an impact on the business's ability to impact that top line and that bottom line, that's the information that I think is important. That's the information I know that the business folks who are typically paying for a lot of these things care about. And I know that you guys have done a great job in identifying those things. I know it kind of starts with velocity and quality, and one of the ones I love is efficiency. But to me, those are all business metrics, business KPIs, and I think those are the things that organizations need to be focused on when they're trying to figure out, what information they want to capture, what metrics they want to capture.
Yeah, and just to go a little bit further, we're this past quarter and the current quarter that we're working on, we're focusing heavily on two things: development productivity, where we're actually looking at the development life cycle and breaking that into different phases, so you can see the development phase, the test QA phase, and the prod phase, and see where your code is spending your time, where in the whole life cycle, and where there are bottlenecks, and where we can start to improve. So you can start to look at that by team or by applications, and really understand what's going on. And more than that, we're also going to show you what things are being worked on in a sprint that isn't getting to production. Like, we call that work in progress. So, are you spending a lot of time on things that you aren't deploying, or is it a small amount of time? Well, it's good to know that. So the better we can understand our processes, the better we can be, and the better we can improve them.
Well, that's where we can draw our attention to. A lot of times we spend a lot of time. I don't mean this in a bad way, but over-engineering, and a lot of times that over-engineering comes at the cost of doing things that really can have an impact. And by having that kind of data, you can focus in on those things that can make a difference from a business standpoint, versus spending a lot of time and effort working on things that may not provide as much value. Next question. I see we're getting some more questions too. This is good. From Elizabeth. Elizabeth asked, how old is the data, or I guess the information, how old is the data when provided back to us, the client? So I think you answered that earlier. It can be pretty quick.
Yeah, it can be if you're streaming the data, which means you've set it up in a way that it's near real time. Like at Compuware, we see our data about 10 to 15 minutes after the event happens. And the reason it's not even faster than that is we don't send one record at a time. We basically have buffers, and you can set those buffers to different sizes, and that affects how quickly the data gets sent. But so it also depends on the volume of usage. So if it's a Monday morning and everybody's developing heavily, you're using products like Expediter and Avidate and FileAid and Strobe, you're going to see data quicker than if it's a Saturday, for example, and the buffers flow a little bit slower. But for non-streaming customers who say send us data just once a month at the end of the month, they tend to have data between 1 and 30 days old when they're looking at it. So it really depends on how frequently whoever's sending the data to us is sending it to us. So it's kind of up to you.
Yeah, our ability to get it back is pretty fast. You're right. It just depends on how fast you can send it.
Yep.
Next question from Avery. How secure is the data that we provide to Compuware? Great question.
Yep, and this is you kind of mentioned before. Some of what most companies will hesitate and ask, what are you doing with the data? What's in the data? The good news is we're not asking for anything that is sensitive. It's just usage data. How many times did you use the edit function of FileAid? So it's not particularly sensitive type data or anything like that. But saying that, security was our #1 priority for our architects, and we take full advantage of everything AWS offers in that area. We also hired a company called VeriSafe, which performs security assessments on the whole, nuts to bolts ZAdvisor. Came back with recommendations on how to make things more secure. We followed that strictly. We've got a GDPR compliancy, so we know we're very secure there too. So,
I think we got a very, very high rating from them as well.
Yes. Oh yeah, it's the highest. Yeah, it's very, very secure.
Yeah. Good. From Jeff. Jeff says, what are the technical requirements to use ZAdvisor? So if you're a client, what kind of technical requirements do they have as a user to leverage it?
So Not much. As far as just if you're the end user, it's basically just a login.
Yeah.
And it's going to be there's dual authentication kind of things to get into the AWS cloud. But from a product standpoint, from the ZAdvisor standpoint, you need to be reasonably current on maintenance. And I say reasonably current, you could be a year or two behind and you'd still get data. It just wouldn't be as rich. Within the different releases, we tend to get more data, richer data, better visualizations. So so I like to tell people, be reasonably current on your maintenance. And generally that means release 17.02 of our mainframe products or better. And some of them might struggle. I think we're at 18. And for Topaz Workbench, it's 19.03, I think, or higher. Gives us the richest data. So those are some of the things I'd recommend. So initially we started having our account consultants go on site to customers' sites and show them ZAdvisor. So the account consultants would log in with their ID, show the customers their data, and that's kind of how we used to do it. We're starting to transition to where we're starting to give our customers their own login IDs. So the customers can just log in at their leisure and look at the data anytime they want. And going further, we're starting to roll out kind of a beta program where we've got a couple of customers that we're actually giving read, write, update authority to dashboards so they can create, basically call them a private tenant in AWS. They can start creating their own dashboards with the data. So we're kind of looking at the different places that customers are in and what they need, making some decisions on that. So, but really there's not a whole lot of technical needs. You got to set a couple of params to turn it on, and you've got to set up the process to send us the data.
Yeah, so it doesn't sound like it's a difficult process at all.
It's not very difficult.
I've got one last question, Bill, from Lillian. Lillian asked, are you working on a way to identify individual user for Expediter kicks? I assume like TSO, I'm reading that right. These are recorded as kicks non and kicks test in our system because Expediter in a CS region doesn't require logging yet.
Yeah.
That one you can respond to?
Yeah, I'm reasonable. I'd have to see exactly what level of maintenance you have on of your Expediter CSCS, Lillian. But I know we made some enhancements in that area. I think that there's now an actual TSO login ID associated with where possible. Now, if we don't have a TSO login like it's that to go from, then sometimes it's a job ID, which might be something like what you're seeing. But it is something we were aware of because we saw it in our own data and made some changes to it. So let me look into that. Lily and I know who you are, Lily, and we talk a lot. I'll check and see what release of maintenance you need to be on, and I'll send you an email and let you know what you need to do.
Perfect. Good deal. Well, Bill, I think that, let's see. Oh, Lily's got another question. I'll let you respond.
I'll follow up with you, Lily, and I've got the, I'll check with our CSCS folks and make sure that I'm telling you right, and I'll send you an email. I'll send it to you today.
Good deal. All right. I think that kind of wraps up our Friday Live Q&A. Folks, we appreciate you joining us today. Bill, can't thank you enough, man. A lot of these questions I would not have been able to answer certainly as good as you have. So I appreciate you taking the time to be with me today.
No,
help us with this. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I love talking about this stuff.
I do too. I mean, you can tell. I mean, we're both just kind of passionate about it. Always have been. I love this stuff. Always have. Always will. Folks, if you've got additional questions, you can contact me directly at rick.slade@compuware.com. Twitter at jrickslade. And if you've got questions about the podcast or about the live Q&As, or you want to follow up or review some of the stuff that we've got out there, you can go to compuware.com/goodcoding. All of that information is there. We've got all of the episodes, all the live Q&As are recorded. You can get to that information if you'd like. Next week, we just finished recording the latest episode of the podcast that will drop next week. And it's kind of an overview of all the things that we've talked about. We try to summarize it. We obviously don't have a lot of time, but we've done an overview of building, evolving, again, is the word I prefer to use, a modern software delivery system. And it's something, again, that people like Bill and I are very passionate about. I hope that you'll download the podcast next week. You'll see alerts, notifications when it gets dropped. But download that, take a look, and at some point in time, we'll follow up with a live Q&A. I, again, appreciate your time here today. I hope everybody has a great week, a great weekend, if it's close to your weekend like it is Bill and I's. Take care, everyone. Stay safe, be productive, and good coding all. Take care. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye.